everyone, welcome to another episode of the Brand Power Analysis. Today I have Robert Turbin. Robert, why don't you give everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Robert Turbin. First of all, I want to say, thanks, Zach, for having me on the show. It's an honor and a privilege, to be a part of this. Yeah, I'm Robert Turbin. I'm from the Bay Area. I don't know if you've been up there, the San Francisco area, not familiar with it at all. But I grew up there and went to school at Utah State. Graduated there with a sociology degree and a business minor in business management, and was drafted in 2012 to Seattle Seahawks and played 8 seasons in the league.
Oh, that's great. So you're from the Chicago area. Are you you're not too envious of the huge storm going on right now, right?
Well, not Chicago. More Oakland, San Francisco. Up in the
Okay.
up in the Bay Area. Yeah.
Oh, the Bay Area. Sorry. Yeah. So you don't have to worry about that weather anyway.
Right.
You're like me.
No, not right. Not dealing with the weather, but it's certainly it's certainly a different town, for lack of a better word, right now with COVID and everything going on. So
yeah, we're getting a lot of people moving here to Arizona from California right now. Our house market is just booming right now. Everyone's buying houses for like 30, 40 over asking price over where we live right now. I'm tempted right now to sell, but I'm not, because I'm very frugal. So
yeah. No, hold on to that thing, man. It's gonna keep going up. Arizona's always been one of those states, right, with I guess, lower housing prices, and nobody wanted to move there though because of the heat, but now they're like, listen, whatever. I'm just whatever gets me out of California or New York or whatever, I'm going. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah, no, it's crazy now. I'm crazy. I'll probably just go buy some land and build while I still live here. That's kind of my plan. Yeah, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about your journey as a player?
Yeah, so it started in Seattle, and I was fortunate enough to win a title early in my career. I won a title my second year, and it was an amazing feeling, literally a dream come true. And the other part of that is having the opportunity to play in New York City, which is my favorite city in the States. I tell people that I always fantasized about being in New York City as a young kid for whatever reason. I think it stemmed from like Home Alone 2 or something. But to be able to be in the Super Bowl, playing the Super Bowl and win it, and it being in New York City was just a fantastic experience. It was phenomenal, and it's certainly something I'll never forget. And then the next year we came back to Arizona, where you are, and played in the Super Bowl and lost. So it was pretty gut wrenching to lose on basically the last play of the game. Having an opportunity to repeat, being the first team to repeat since I think the Patriots did it in like 03, 04.
Yeah,
would have been a nice accomplishment, but we felt short. And so, some people ask, like, when you win the Super Bowl and you reach the pinnacle, that's like the pinnacle of all your goals and aspirations as a football player. How are you able to bounce back from that? Some people assume like there's a lull, and there is with some players, some teams even. I think like the Eagles are a good example of that. They won the Super Bowl and all of a sudden they just disappeared. What happened? They really didn't know how to handle winning the big game. And so it's always important to have, new goals. One of my favorite rappers is Nipsey Hussle. I don't really talk about this a lot, but in one of his songs, he says, now I have different goals because I've reached all my old ones, and he was one of those guys always like striving for the next thing. So even though you win a Super Bowl and that's like the end goal at the end of the season.
Mhm.
Fact of the matter is, there's a new season, and so therefore, there's an opportunity to go out and win it again, and even achieve some of the individual goals that you have for yourself, throughout your career. But it started in Seattle, and I'll say this about the Super Bowl too. Winning it young at 23, I don't. I probably didn't understand what was happening and what I was doing at that time. I don't think I had the appreciation for it. Obviously, I was ecstatic to win, right? I mean, who wouldn't be? But yeah, I don't think I understood the depth of what it means to not only win the Super Bowl, but to be the first team to do it for the city of Seattle. I mean, it's really been a huge thing in my transition out of football, and yeah, I remember getting into an argument with my coach because I wasn't a starter. Marshawn was the starter, and I got into an argument with him, and I said, I'd rather lose the Super Bowl as a starter than win it as a backup. He kind of looked at me like, what is that? What do you mean? That no, I would never do that. But I was serious. I was really serious. But as I got older and grew in my career, I realized that he was right. I mean, I've throughout the journey, I've met countless players who are in their 8th and 9th and 10th years and more, who haven't even made the playoffs. You don't even know what the playoffs feel like, let alone the Super Bowl. And so you grow a different appreciation for it as you get older in your career and understand really how rare it is. From the outside looking in, it's like, well, somebody wins it every year, so we don't really see the rarity of it. When in fact, it's a really really tough goal to attain, man. So anyway, I started in Seattle. I left Seattle. I was in Cleveland and Dallas in the same year in 2015. And was really appreciative of that opportunity in Dallas because it led to the opportunity to go to the Indianapolis Colts in 2016. I led the team in touchdowns that season, and I had a good run with the Colts, good 3-year run with the Colts, um, and that was the pretty much after the 2018 season. Had to battle through a couple injuries. Everybody's going to go through adversity in an athletic career, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's always about how you respond. It's about how you respond to good things too. We just talked about how you come back from winning the Super Bowl, right? How can you mentally get your mind right to come back and go and do it again? Pete Carroll was always great in presenting challenges. I remember our first meeting after winning the Super Bowl. He says, "Hey, I know you guys just won the Super Bowl, but can you do it again?" And it was an instant challenge. It was like it didn't even wait. He's like, "Can you do it again?" It's just like, whoa, okay, all right. Well, we're gonna prove that we can do it again. But yeah, man, I had dealt with some injuries and things like that, which really kind of derailed my career in years 6 and 7. Really unfortunate, but battled back and was able to return to Seattle during that 2019 season, and so far that's been the end of it.
Yeah, yeah, it must be challenging. I know running backs in general right now, I feel like there's somewhat a commodity for the NFL to kind of push towards bringing more running backs in. So, and I feel like they're always changing. You're always changing in a dynamic situation compared to other situations like a defensive end or a linebacker. So, with those challenges, how did you what were some of those difficulties with your transition, moving from the sport and starting your own thing after the fact?
Yeah, well, to answer the first part of that question, the challenging part of it, I'll never forget, I was drafted in 2012, like I mentioned, and I had a pretty good rookie year, right? Playing behind Marshawn Lynch. And in the offseason, Seattle traded their first round pick to get Percy Harvin. So their first pick of the draft was a second round pick. And they picked a running back.
Yeah.
And it was just like instantly, here I am going into my second year, and they're already drafting another running back to replace me. It's just like, wow, this happens fast, but it's just about how you discipline yourself in the off season, and how you work. I've always told people, I said, hey, and I mean this too, I can say this with real confidence. Um, I may not be a Hall of Famer, but I have Hall of Fame work ethic. And that I know for a fact, and that is what, despite the running back position being devalued and things like that, that's what was able to keep me in the league so long, paying attention to my health and nutrition, really being disciplined about what I'm eating and what I'm putting in my body on a daily basis for years.
Yeah.
That's not easy to do, man.
It's not, man.
I
It's
can't
not.
I can't tell you how many times I had to look away from a bacon cheeseburger. I just had to walk into another room or something like that. My kids are eating fries, and I'm just like, you guys all suck. Okay.
My son,
Like,
my son, he's almost 2 right now. And just to get out of the house, we go to Sonic to get him fries. And I'm total keto right now myself. So,
uh-huh.
I'm fries are my weakness. And so I know what you mean by challenge. You definitely have more of that athletic background because you focus in the sport and you really had to have that mentality. Me right now, for instance, one of the reasons I got into growing with athletes is because I saw such a connection between the digital marketing world and how to grow a business, very similar to how you as an athlete have to be rigorous about certain things and take one step at a time and take the next challenge and learn from your mistakes. And that's
Yeah.
why I push to this. But food is a huge thing for me too. And I don't think a lot of fans, and probably some athletes too, depending on the team and how they provide the meals and stuff, but how much working out. And I always tell fans that they always see the top of the line. They always see the in game. They always see the touchdown. They don't see how much work goes behind the playbook, behind the practices, behind the food. And so I love that you said that in the rigorousness about it, because it really showcases to even the fan side that, hey, there's a lot more. And I want you to get a little bit deeper if possible and and how that made you feel when they drafted a second running back. I mean, because I think that, yeah, you have to have a positive persona, but I also know that from your side, there's always going to be that, oh, this happens fast, I have to stay positive. But what kind of emotions and stuff did you have in your mind while you were while that kind of stuff happens in the league?
Yeah, I was just really confused, to be honest. What was cool was, Seattle, they did call me, and they let me know beforehand
Oh, that's
that
nice.
they were gonna be drafting this kid, and I respected that a lot, and it was one of those things where they were saying like, hey, listen, it doesn't have anything to do with you. It's just that we don't have a need right now at any position. There's no, we're pretty set. So whenever that happens, normally a team is just going to draft who they feel like is the best player on the board. Out of
Hmm.
all the players in the draft, we don't have a need. So let's just draft the best guy. Who do we feel like is the best guy available right now out of all the positions? And they felt like the kid playing running back was the best guy, But here's the thing: when you come into the league, uh, people are constantly telling you it's a business, it's a business, it's a business. But if you didn't graduate college with a degree in business, how are we supposed to know what that means
Yeah.
in its totality,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
in generic terms, we know it's a business. Okay, yeah, we understand that. But in detail, we don't understand what it means for the NFL to be a business, all right, and it's a different entity than even some other businesses. A lot of similarities, but everybody knows that the NFL kind of uh, does its own thing or plays by its own rules, right? I mean, even like from a federal standpoint, like a government, you know what I mean? Like the NFL kind of they beat to their own drum in a lot of ways. So what does it mean? What does that mean in business? You know, and when you're a young player, there's there's that aspect that you don't understand. There's the relationship aspect that you don't understand, and so this is the reason why you'll see a lot of players frustrated over about a trade or a release or being cut or something like that. Now, do some teams go about it in a the wrong way, for lack of a better word? Sure. I'm sure there are ways that some teams could go about some of these decisions a little bit better, but for the most part, they're really just making choices, that's best for the team. And I didn't learn this until my fifth year. My fifth year, this was 2016, and I was with the Colts. This is my first year with the Colts, and I was fortunate enough to be teammates with Frank Gore, the legend, right? And Frank, he, I mean, I can't. There's not a player in the NFL that I've learned more from than Frank Gore in 2 years that we were teammates. But Frank would talk to everybody. Frank was, hey, how you doing? Scouts, the guy who comes in the locker room to take players, upstairs before they get cut. Frank's talking to that guy, and when I was in Seattle, it was a different feel. As a young player, it was, you can be altered pretty early as a young player in the league, and for me, for whatever reason, it was always displayed as like it's the players against everybody, pretty much, coaches and GMs and all the decision makers and stuff like that. We're not friends. They don't care about us, mm-hmm. They don't care what happens to us. They just want us to play, and whatever happens. If we get hurt, they're gonna cut us. If we don't perform well, we'll get traded, etc. Right? They don't give a shit about us, right? They don't want to pay us what we're worth, But Frank just had this. I mean, he just had this for as serious as he was about the game, and obviously he's a Hall of Famer. He's third all time in rushing. I mean, the guy is just one of the greatest of all time. But for a guy who was so serious about it, I mean, he talked to he's so outgoing. So one day I was just like, man, I gotta ask him. One day I had to ask him because I'm still relatively a young player, especially compared to Frank, right? Frank, why do you talk to everybody, man? What isn't it like, like it's us against them, right? what are you doing? He's like, man, hey, come on, man. That's how he always say, man. It's not that serious. It's everybody at the end of the day, like, it's cool. Everybody has a job, he said, and he's like, you gotta look at it from that standpoint. So I got to thinking, and and he was right. And I started to develop these relationships. I have great relationships with general managers and people who make decisions and stuff like that. I didn't know you could do that as a young player. I didn't even realize that you could do it. But if you think about it, how did those guys get those jobs?
Yeah.
Relationship. A lot of those people sitting in those seats are former players.
Yeah.
How do they get those jobs? Relationship. Yeah. They didn't take a sports management class to get those jobs. No, some of them did, perhaps, right? But for the most part, it all stemmed from relationship. They all started as a scout and worked their way up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as I got older in my career, what I started to do was I started to put myself in their shoes. Like, if I was the general manager, seriously, like, honestly, wholeheartedly, what choices would I make? Who would I trade? Who would I cut? What What choices would I make? What decisions would I make? Some of those decisions are hard, man. Some guys get cut or traded or whatever, and it's not because it doesn't have to do with the individual player. They have nothing against him. It can be a number of things.
Yeah.
Salary cap. Oh, we just don't have it. We don't have the cap space. Maybe somebody got injured and we need to fill that position, so we have to let go of somebody at another position because we have depth there to fill a spot at a different position.
Yeah.
That's business. That's just a part of the business. Doesn't mean we don't like this player that we just released. Just means that right now we can't have him.
Mm-hmm.
What are we supposed to do? What am I supposed to do as a general manager? Like it's tough. It's a hard. Now, can some of these guys go about it better? Absolutely. The great GMs will sit down with you, look you in the face, say, hey, man, we're going to let you go, or we're going to trade you. And other ones don't have, I don't know. They just don't have the wherewithal to do that. They send somebody else to do it. Maybe they're not man enough to do it. I don't know. I don't know what the term you want to use for it, but it's unprofessional at the end of the day. Professionalism to me is being able to look somebody, in the eye and say, hey, we're going to make this choice. All right. But what I learned overall was it's not personal. It's just a part of the business. And if you're a player, if you just for a moment, just say, what would I do if I was the GM? There's so many things that go into it. Everybody in the building has to get paid, right? There's only so much money that can go around, And so, when you look at it from that standpoint, you learn not to take anything personal. And you don't take anything for granted either. You say, you know what, man, it's all good. When I was re-signed to Seattle, I've never really told this story in 2019. I called John Snyder, who's the GM, myself. I hadn't talked to him in years, since I left, really, But when I left Seattle, I left frustrated, a frustrated young player going into in his fourth year. I was just sick of it. I was sick of being in Seattle. There was just a lot of antics that would happen in the locker room. I wanted to be a starter. I was just tired of playing this role and having to deal with the extra that came with that role. Yeah. All right. I won't get into the details of that, but so they let me go, whatever. But it was, I injured my ankle in the preseason. I was pretty upset. Okay, so you guys are going to let me go because I'm not going to be ready by week 1. Now I understand it. Now I probably would have done the same thing, probably, but I can understand why they did it. That's what I'm saying. If I put myself in John Snyder's shoes, the day that he released me, and I remember him being kind of upset, like, man, I thought it was fake. I'm like, you're full of shit. But it wasn't. It was genuine, especially when I look back on it now.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, if I was him, and I look at the running back room that we had, what would I have done? I get it, right? I get the business. I understand it, right? These choices are difficult a lot of times for these guys. Some of us as players, we just think like, man, these guys just don't give a shit. They just, they just do whatever with this. Nah, man, some of these people actually have like, good hearts, they're trying to do the right thing, But I called John. One of their players went down. I think it was Pro Size. And I called him. This was like, I don't know, this was like maybe like week 12 or something, 13. It was later in the season. I hadn't been picked up yet, And he instantly says, hey, Rob, hey, listen, man, we still have 4 running backs. I think we're still good at that position right now. First of all, I was just really thankful that he took my call, called me back. But I told him, I said, John, I'm not calling you about a position with the team. And he was taken back, I said, I know when I left Seattle as a young player, I didn't always have the right attitude. And I was pretty upset about, leaving there. But the reason why I'm calling is because what's important to me, especially now, more than ever is to ensure that my relationship with you and the Seahawks organization is really, really good. It's solid. Why? Because you guys drafted me. We won a Super Bowl there. We're going to have a Super Bowl reunion. When I come back for the Super Bowl reunion, I want I want everything to be genuine. I want the highs and the hellos and the hugs and the handshakes to be for real, not fake just because we're there. That's not the kind of guy that I am, right? I want to genuinely be happy to like see everybody, including people of management who were making the hard choices, you know? And it just really struck, it really struck them differently, I believe. And it led to me returning, to the team later on that season, after they were dealing with some injuries in the running back room. But whether my career continues or not, what I love is that my relationship with the Seattle Seahawks, my relationship with the Colts and Chris Ballard, who's the GM over there, is solid. And as you transition, what young players need to understand, as you come into the league, one day you're going to transition. And the relationships that you build, especially the ones who are quote unquote up top, these are guys, the decision makers, all right? They are majorly, they're vastly important. I mean, they are really important. Who knows? I've been able to talk to Chris Ballard about a potential coaching job or a potential job in the front office. I've been able to talk to John Snyder about those things. I've been able to talk to Ryan Grigson, who was the GM for the Colts before Chris Ballard. He was the one who brought me in. He's the one who signed me there. And Chris ended up keeping me, and I've been able to talk to him about, different opportunities and things like that around the league, and coaches, especially, I recently talked to Jason Garrett, who I didn't even think I had a good relationship with, had a good conversation with him just the other day, and so, he was like, man, we don't have any, coaching positions open right now at the Giants, but, I'd be happy to talk to someone else for you, just things like that. But that doesn't happen without relationship, man.
Yeah.
And so, that would be one of the things that I would advise a young player coming into the league. Listen, yes, it's a business, man. You got to perform, like that's what it's going to come down to. You have to perform. But at the end of the day, don't have anything against these people who are making decisions, man. They're just trying to do their job the best way that they know how. Whether it's good to you or not is totally something else. At the end of the day, they're doing their job the best to their ability, the best that they feel like is good, And as long as you establish relationship, it'll take you anywhere you want to go, especially as you transition out of your career.
That's very in depth, and I appreciate that. It does sound, you gave me a whole new insight on it, and so I'm hoping that other people can take away from that a lot, especially other players, because I do see from my end when I'm talking to other players that they do tend to ignore, that first couple of years. They focus solely on the sport, which is fine. You should be focusing on the sport, but they do take that. We always say, hey, dedicate just a little bit of time in getting prepared, and like you did, where it was like over time being genuine and understanding that it is about building relationships, and you are eventually going to have to find something else to do after the sport. If it with the NFL, if it's with your passion in the game, and you create something outside the game that continues on with your passions, you're going to have to do that. And all business is building relationships.
That's what it is. And it's important to, as also, my first couple of years, I had my own radio show in Seattle, and it was called The Turbo Show. It was the #1 listen show on the radio during that 2-year span. When I went to Indianapolis, I was a co-host for a TV show called Sports Locker. And that was a really cool experience. I interned for a real estate company in San Diego, Pacific Sotheby's. during my third and fourth years in the league, and just trying to diversify my portfolio, trying to get into different things. I knew that I wanted to be in the entertainment space. Radio was something that I was really comfortable with doing, more so than being on camera. But I don't mind being on camera, but on the radio, I don't have to be seen.
Yeah, it gives you that sense. It gives you that sense. It's funny because when I do my workshops with Zoom, I'm the same way. I'll purposely turn off everyone's camera so I know they're not looking at me. So it kind of gives you a sense of. So no, I feel you on that one.
Right. But it's two things. It's important to have something that that you want to do post career, and it's something that you like. It doesn't even necessarily have to be something that you're super passionate about. At least not in the beginning. But it's important to engage into something that you like. That you like to do outside of football, because the off season is pretty long. But it's long only in the sense of, listen, there's only so many hours in the day that you can train. Okay, I was one of those guys that spent a lot of hours training, but I still had more free time, than I did training time. And so, what are you doing in that free time? One of the things that I wish I would have done differently is, I wish I would have created an income for myself. Like, you don't have to work, you have to get another job or something like that, right? But there are different ways, especially now, during the pandemic, there's so many online things and et cetera, et cetera. But, what is something that you can establish? Maybe it is a job, but it's something that you like to do. So it's different. It doesn't feel like a job, right? And it doesn't have to be a whole lot of money. You have to go, I'm not saying to go work a 9 to 5 and get paid 20 hours an hour or $20 an hour, right? But just doing something that you like. Maybe it's $1,500 a month. Maybe it is what it is. But even that little bit of cash will keep you from spending the cash that you get from the league.
Yeah.
And income it just always feels good. I don't care. Like, if you find $20 on the ground, it's $20. You ever find money like in the laundry? Whatever, it's $5, but it's $5. It feels good to receive income. I would establish that as a young player, because then you have something that you can grow into, especially if you're doing something that you like, that you can grow into. So when you are in years, 6, 7, and 8, you've been doing this same job or whatever in the off season every year. You've started your own business, and it's grown. Now it's had 6, 7, 8 years of growth while you're playing football, as opposed to starting fresh 8 years down the road.
It's very similar. It's very similar to what financial advisors tell people that are in the corporate world, because they're also working for another business. And when they say, hey, you want to start your own business on the side, start it on the side while you're still in the corporate world, build up money in that business account for a little while. And so, when you get out and you start your own thing 100%, that you have this cushion of cash that you can focus on for while you're trying to build that business. And I think it does. It also, I think, helps. And one of the things I personally, owning my own business, is I've seen is what makes a really good business owner compared to, there's, of course, just like the sport, there's 100 different variables involved, but is your finances, is your expenses, your this and that. And when we work with athletes, we always say, hey, go to your financial advisor. We want you to talk to them, because we want you to kind of see the point, if you're starting your own business, that one, this is a huge write-off, but two, that it actually gives you a second sense besides your personal expenses of really having like a layer of cash that you can kind of watch and make sure that you're spending your money efficiently, but also learn about expenses, learn about, hey, what things are going to help me grow, what things aren't going to help me grow. A lot like you said in the sport, I think being a business owner has the very same mentality. I've had to let some employees go in the past, and it's hard. I don't want to let them go, but it's the same as a salary cap. Sometimes, you know, like the pandemic happened and things happen and you lose clients and you have to kind of, you know, tailor as you go. And so I think it's a great learning experience. And it helps them, especially when you're in the game. With now we have social media, we have podcasts, we have digital marketing, we have website development where they can create their own, basically their own channel where they can kind of put all their information up with building these relationships that they can leverage while they're still in the game. Well, they can leverage their in-game appearance. Well, I mean, use that free marketing that you're getting by being on the field. I mean, the NFL's doing it, you know, so that's what they're doing. That's, you know, what you're there for. So I 100% agree with you on that. And so what are some of those things that, in regards to athletes building their brands, that they can learn from players like yourself that have gone through the transition?
Yeah, you know, the brand thing is I mean, it it can go a couple different ways. You know, some guys are really great at doing it because they're already you know, into social media and they understand the benefits of, you know, being on there, and, you know, guys like Juju and stuff like that, different platforms on the Twitch platform, TikTok.
Mhm.
But some guys are just not, you know, some guys are really private. Some guys are really just
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
you know, I don't feel the need to, show my work. I was one of those guys. You know, I'm a
Yeah.
horrible social media guy.
Dude, I own a
Um,
social media agency, man. Like we do social media for athletes, and I hate social media. You know, like
yeah,
so I
yeah,
have my employees do it, and yes, I will say yes, I have to approve it and I do all that stuff. But I'm the same way, man. So I mean, I totally get it.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, you know, it's some of us get in trouble because we want to surround ourselves with people who we know, who we're comfortable with, but don't necessarily have the expertise of what we want them to do,
Hmm.
whether it be management or social media building or, you know, finances and stuff like that, taxes, etc. You know, this is the area because, you know, we're so consumed into the game,
Hmm.
and we're so focused on improving each and every year. This is where, you know, this is where your relationship building is really important. Again, you know,
Yeah.
here it comes again, and being able to connect with people who have the expertise in knowing how to build a brand and build a website and help you with your foundation, and stuff like that. You know, a lot of us are really dependent on our agents to
Yeah.
do a lot for us. When at the end of the day, you know, the agent, his biggest responsibility, his number one responsibility for you as a player is your contract.
Yeah,
That's
that's
really
true.
it. You
Or,
know, it
you know,
doesn't.
sometimes it changes. It depends on the sports marketing agency. But yeah, either that or your how to get you sponsors. Like those are the two things that they're really for, you know?
Yeah, but if honestly though, if you talk to, you know, like most agents, because the sports market, you got to think, you got to sports marketing agents and agencies are different than football agents
Yeah.
and agencies. Now, there are football agents that may be a part of sports marketing agencies, but that doesn't necessarily make it that their job
Yeah, it's a
or
team, just like you were
responsibility,
saying earlier. Yeah, yeah.
right? So when it comes to, you know, a guy, you know, the guy that you hire out of college to be your agent is mostly for football. The great ones are able to establish some sort of marketing for you, but that's not really their focus.
That's not.
And really the ones that are able to do that aren't really going out and, you know, putting in footwork to market you. It's coming to you because you're scoring touchdowns on Sunday. So it's
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
You know, he gets all the credit, but in all actuality, he's really not doing shit because these marketing opportunities are coming to you. Let's just be honest about it. The fact of the matter is, agents are only focused on doing your contract. They talk like they do marketing and sponsorships and endorsement deals. They can, but they don't put the groundwork in to do that. They talk like they do, they say that they do, but they don't. The ones that do, it's because somebody's come to them, this company, T-Mobile, whoever it is, said, hey, we want to do a commercial with your player. You know, what's going to cost, yada, yada, yada. Oh, then oh yeah, of course. Because they know they'll get 20% of that.
Yeah.
Right. But for a guy, you know, I don't know, drafted in maybe the 3rd round, or unless you're a quarterback, right? That's going to be a little harder to find those marketing opportunities. So, and I'm going to tell you right now, your agent is not going to be the one searching for those marketing opportunities for you. You know what he's going to say? He's going to say, you're a 6th round pick. That, you know, that we're not going to get very many marketing opportunities. It's not true. It's not true. Still playing the NFL. If you're a 6th round pick and you run a Super Bowl as a backup corner, there are a massive amount of marketing opportunities that you can get.
Well,
You
it's
just gotta have the
funny.
right person.
It's funny you kind of say both those things, because first off, you're hitting some pain points of why I grew my agency to begin with, because I knew that traditional sports marketing agencies, they don't focus on the digital side of players. And 2, you're hitting that marketing side without even knowing it, where you're kind of saying, hey, you have certain agents that just focus on NSL. That's basic niching right there. They're niching on into NFL because that's what they're good at. They're not good at the other marketing stuff. They're not good at, developing a website. And I see it everywhere. And I'm not going to put names out there or anything, but I've seen hundreds of sites where I've talked to athletes and I'm like, hey, what is the purpose of your site? Do you get any sales? Do you get this? And they say, no, it just sits there. And I'm like, well, you're supposed to define it. And the process, as you said, that stuff's important. And from the niche of a business perspective, I have this problem, not just with working with athletes, but with working with anyone that understands marketing, is that there is a discovery process. There is a huge process behind building a strategy. I mean, it's all part of, I think, the ever-growing technology where people think things just happen, but yeah, so it's interesting that you kind of said that, and it showcases, and that's one thing I really try to tell a lot of the athletes that we work with, which is, hey, just like when you were playing the game, you had a team, and like you mentioned earlier, you have your coaches, you have, everything works together. You're all part of the ecosystem. When you're building a business and a nonprofit, it's all the same thing. I'm not going to come into you and say, hey, I want to work on your finances. That's not what I do. I'm going to say, you send that to someone that you feel is a valuable of that position, and we'll work with them in a way. Or a traditional sports marketing agency, like we work with them, So it's good for, I think, athletes to look at it, like you said, and think to themselves, hey, build relationships, find people of value. And one thing that I see a lot that you can probably relate to is, I see a lot of these athletes coming out and they're in the 1st or 2nd year. And yes, I understand that there are a lot of people out there that understand that you guys make money, and that you have to watch out with who you work with, but don't be afraid to build relationships, because those relationships are what are going to help you achieve what you need to achieve after the game. You don't have to be a 1st round pick. We don't even, me and my agency, we focus on retired athletes. We focus on building brands around them. We don't focus on building brands around the Tom Brady's and, stuff like that, because they already kind of have that stuff figured out for them. And so I agree with you. I think that that's very valuable, the relationship building, and kind of making sure that they value the importance of building relationships.
Yeah. And really hiring a marketing, as it pertains to marketing and things like that, digital marketing, you're going to have to, as a player, you got to hire somebody outside of your agent if you really want to excel in that realm.
Mm-hmm. Everyone has their specialties, and I see it in every field. I mean, you, for instance, you were a running back. I mean, if someone told you, hey, I wanted you to go out there and play quarterback, you may have you may have a good throwing arm, but you'd probably say, hey, I'm not a quarterback.
Right.
Like, it's the
Right.
same thing within any specific industry, and I see it just working with our partners as well, that they value their stuff, but then even if it's almost in the same field, but then they don't value what their partners do. And it's like this all works together. You have to know that it's not all just on your agent. It's not just on your finances. It's not on your digital marketing. It all works together to help build a cohesive brand and a cohesive growing for anybody that's in the industry. And that's why I rely on my employees, because I know that they're part of my team and I want them to feel like they're part of my team and know that they're getting us somewhere in our business. And so I 100% agree with you. So how do you feel like you can help athletes moving forward? I don't think you really talked a lot about what you're kind of doing now or what you're trying to achieve outside the game. So why don't you talk a little bit about that and how you can help other athletes moving forward?
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of different things that I'm engaging in right now. Some I can't even get into depth with because I'm under NDA, but
Yeah.
I am doing TV for CBS right now. I'm in negotiations with ESPN to come on part-time on the radio station, 710 here in Seattle. I am in the process of acquiring my own radio station here in Seattle through my foundation. And I have my podcast, and we've taken a little bit of a break from the podcast, but I still plan on doing it and bringing it back, just in a different way. There's a lot of game planning and things like that going on as it pertains to the podcast. And here's the thing about me, I'm an outside the box thinker.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be innovative. I'm not the most innovative person, but when it comes to things that I'm passionate about, and the podcast is something that I am passionate about, I'm in the processes of curating some ways that we can be innovative and different, and produce a really great podcast. And so part of that, a lot of it, Twitch will be involved in that because we're partners, which is been a fantastic relationship so far. I know they're probably wondering what the hell's going on though, because I haven't done anything in quite a while. But great things take time, and
They do.
but we are making a lot of progress in this thing. And I mentioned that I did some real estate stuff early in my career, some internship stuff, and so I've been able to establish myself with a couple partners, and we're working on breaking ground on some projects, and I want to really use that mostly as pertains to helping the young players in the league, because I feel like these guys that I'm with, a real blessing, first of all, to have been partnered with two different teams, but there's an opportunity there where I can go to the NFLPA and perhaps create a program for young players who may want to get into real estate while they're playing, which I would recommend, and especially when they're done, but more so when they're playing, because like I said, listen, if you go on to play 6 years of your career, that's 5 or 6 years of equity you can be building in real estate. That's gonna do nothing but appreciate while you can focus on football. And so a small investment, in real estate is going to go a long way, especially when you talk about, the type of projects that we're doing, 25 and 50, apartment complexes and things like that. And just, having a bunch of property spread out all over the nation. And so, but the NFLPA doesn't have a program like that. They don't have a real estate program like that. They don't have anybody to head that, to be honest. And so I've been in talks with the NFLPA. Obviously, we want to get ourselves a little bit more established. We want to, the numbers are there, but the numbers were there before I got there. Yeah. So I want to be able to establish some numbers while I'm there, so I can have something to show and say, hey, I want to pass this information down and create some opportunities for players to invest while they're playing, so that their money's working for them. Mm-hmm. The game is bigger than the stock market and all the bullshit that your financial advisors tell you. Do your own thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's some great advice. And I want to thank you again for being on. Why don't you tell everyone where they can contact you?
Yeah, all my social networks are at Robert J Turbin, Instagram, Twitter. Um, I have a YouTube channel at Robert J Turbin, LinkedIn, Facebook. It's all the same. My website is robertjturbin.com. Needs to be renovated, but still a good site to go and check out. You can find some information about my foundation there, which is the Running for You Foundation. You can donate there as well. My Twitch channel is twitch.tv/Robert J Turbin. Once again, that's part of the podcast. So haven't been on there in a little while, but you can still subscribe, and we'll be up and running here pretty soon. And I can't wait to get started.
Well, thanks again for being on. And everyone will check you out on your channels.
Appreciate that.